Hi. If you're watching this, it means that it probably came up on your Facebook feed, which is a miracle because the algorithm hasn't been working in my favor for quite a while now because I took some time off Facebook and I don't think the algorithm liked that. Anyway, here I am, here you are, and I'll try and get straight to the point of why I'm doing this video. It's an intro video to a new, adventure escapade chapter that I am going to get myself involved with. It was largely inspired by having to come back from the surgeries that I had a number of years ago that really shut me down guitar playing wise and in every single way, physically, mentally, the whole thing. So what I'm about to get into can probably be summed up with that Winston Churchill quote, "If you find yourself going through hell, just keep going." A few years ago, I went through some hell, and I would like to try and facilitate to help people to keep going till they get to the other side of it like I did. So I'm about to basically grow my YouTube channel out to something well beyond an artist's YouTube channel. And the overarching idea of that was largely inspired by creating a series of videos called Guitar Rehab. A number of years ago, I had a few surgeries. They're pretty intense surgeries, and 3 of them that were very much related to my guitar playing and the debilitation of it were a shoulder surgery, 2 trigger finger surgeries, and a neck surgery on my spine. The most intense surgery of which was my neck surgery. And that's where they had to take 2 discs out and put 2 titanium ones in to replace them because the old ones were impinging my spinal cord. Thankfully, the titanium discs don't set off the metal detectors when I go to the airport. So symptom-wise, I started to lose feeling in my hands. All my fingers started to trigger. I would either have like a pins and needles feeling or extreme pain. And it got to the point where I'd be playing guitar and I'd cramp up or I'd drop the pick and not even realize because I couldn't feel it. And it finally led to the day where I walked in and said to my wife, I can't play guitar. I can't play guitar anymore. It was pretty devastating to have to say after all the years that I've dedicated to it. And then it got worse. It got to the point where I couldn't open a door. I couldn't use a knife and fork. I couldn't even click my fingers. It was getting a lot worse than just losing the plane. I was kind of losing it all. So I went out and tried to find the best surgeon I possibly could. I try and live my life on the path of least regret. So I knew that if I got the best surgeon I possibly could to do this and came out of that surgery and it didn't work, then at least I would have known that I gave it my all. But thankfully, it did work. And it was instant. It was like the kink was taken out of the hose. My hands just worked again. I got straight back onto a guitar again, like nothing had ever happened. You don't appreciate anything more than when it's taken away from you. So as intense as this was, once it was done, it was fixed. Flashing back, well before that, after I'd had my shoulder surgery and 2 trigger finger surgeries, there was a whole period of recoupment there. My fingers in particular, I had to do an extensive amount of physical therapy and then practice to get back to the point where it was like, oh, it's me again. So during this whole time, I was online, like scouring the net for ways to rehabilitate, to try and get back on a fretboard and to get everything to work again. I didn't really find much in terms of, rehabilitating my hands, etc., my fingers. So on the other side of this, in the context of a channel, I'm going to create an ongoing playlist of videos that will be concerned with 3 things. So the first section will be largely centered around the physical therapy exercises and even musician exercises that I was given at the time. This is meant to be more of a window into that world, just to show you what is out there and what's available, that you can then, if this is a more serious thing, that's something you would need direct guidance with. But for anyone else who is just trying to exercise in the right way, I can show you these exercises. I point you to legitimate sites that help me, and more or less, it's meant to provide an awareness of the options you do have out there in the world. The second area will be practice and practicing the right way. I was very fortunate when I went through university that there was a kind of changing in the guard in terms of practice regimes. And us as musicians, we all try and pursue this ultimate sound, and we don't really care what we have to do and contort ourselves and just mangle ourselves to attain that sound. So I'll be showing like different practice regimes that will help you attain that sound and actually retain that sound. I play a whole bunch of different styles of guitar, one of which is classical, which was my main focus at university. And if you hold your arm up like this for God knows how many hours a day for a number of years, then it's probably going to affect your shoulder if you got the genetics that I do. So flipping back, that's what basically caused that surgery. But there's a whole lot of practice regimes. Regime sounds intense, but it is when you practice and want to practice in a serious way. Let's say practice routine. Regime's what we used to call it when we were doing it for God knows how many hours a day. I'll be showing exercises that will be able to strengthen you in all the right ways, essentially. So with my background in teaching and being a student, I'll be able to show you different ways to practice properly. I think it's something that's also relevant for beginners, because when I lost my playing, I went back to 11-year-old Bryce that was trying to get fingers on the fretboard to work. And it was an insight into being a beginner and trying to get on your feet. So these exercises are designed to help anyone who's starting or anyone who's trying to get their playing back. The third area will be largely psychological, the psychology of a musician, the battling the negative thought, imposter syndrome side of things, and also discounting the positive. That's all things that we tend to do. So to get as good at the instrument you're playing as you possibly can, not just guitar, you do need the right kind of mindset, because you can easily shut yourself down with negative thoughts. When it comes to creating this series of videos, there's only one of the three areas that's really guitar focused. I think that this is something that a lot of musicians can get something out of. And even with the guitar focused stuff, I think you can apply to other instruments. If you're a violinist or a pianist, it will hopefully get you to ask the right questions in your journey of how you can practice better, more effectively, efficiently, and without any future bad outcomes. At the very least, make other instrumentalists aware of how they're doing things. I believe all this will help many musicians, pursuing the perfect sonic sound of happiness as such. I really want this to be super interactive as well. I don't want it just to be about me and my story or my experiences. I think there are a lot of people out there that can bring a lot of valuable knowledge to the equation. Maybe even have some interviews with people that can really add value to people's learning development and rehabilitation, whatever it might be. So as I said, this idea of guitar rehab got me thinking, and I want to transform and develop the channel that I have well beyond being an artist channel. And I think that, I have a lot of people that come to me, especially young Australian composers that come to me and ask advice on different areas of getting into the industry. And, you probably repeat about 70 or 80, maybe 90% of it. And I figured that, I might as well create some online content that can cater to that. Not just the business side, but the musical side as well. Part of what put me on people's radar over here was the things that I did with guitars. When I started this film composing, music producing thing, I only had 2 or 3 guitars that I had to extrapolate every last tone out of to try and make the crappy synths and the bad orchestral samples that I had to try and make them sound more real. I would use these guitars in really weird sonic ways. I'll talk about the equipment I use, the pedals, the crazy amount of pedals, the way I use different DAWs like Cubase, or Pro Tools, or Logic, Ableton Live, and even incorporating Vienna Ensemble Pro and remote machines and how to connect them together. During COVID, I built my own PC. I'll go through that because there is definitely things you can learn that are of better quality than the most expensive things that you can buy out there when it comes to computers. You know who I'm talking about. And to help shine a light on how to build a pretty powerful machine with your own hands. You don't need a soldering iron. Just need to know the right places to look and what component parts to buy to plug in together. So I'll give a window into the writing and producing process of how I go about things there. Not just the writing and producing, but also like as a musician, like a cinematic musician, a cinematic guitarist, showing that side of what I do and how I am always, especially in this day and age, in pursuit of interesting sounds that don't just come from a sound library. I actually came into the film world as an orchestrator, funnily enough, and it made me realize that I approach things with the guitarist's mind at times. And I think there's great value in that because you can be pulled into a project. I've been pulled into projects where I don't end up using a guitar at all, but it's the way I approach the orchestra and modular synthesis, which is the thing that helps that point of difference that I was speaking of before when it comes to my own output. So whether it's inspired by Jimmy Page of Led Zeppelin and all the great guitar orchestration he would do in the songs, or other end of the spectrum, I guess you'd say, the great composers like Debussy and Wagner and Richard Strauss and Chopin and Beethoven, all these guys that their music I fell in love with at university, which actually I designed my own guitar inspired by that. It's got the range and capabilities of a piano, and it's actually been an incredible tool in the whole way I've done things over the years. So all this to say, I want to be able to fill in the gaps for guitarists when it comes to orchestrating, and for them to know, like, you don't have to play piano to be a great orchestrator. So as anyone who knows me will tell you, I'm a pretty genuine guy, and this comes from a very genuine place, especially because the thing that initially inspired me was the hell that I was going through, that I would love to save people some of that hell if they're going through a version of it themselves. I think I'm really going to enjoy the sense of community that I want to create. And for someone who spends a lot of time making music in a dark room on my own, it will be nice to be talking to people and exchanging ideas. So I would genuinely love to see people really benefit from what I want to do with my channel and the direction I want to take it. I think it could be really cool. If you've gotten this far in the video, thank you.